Susie Siegel was his former assistant during the time that he began dating Cassie Ventura, the singer. And I should note, you became his assistant as a part of the reality show to work for him.
I did.
Everyone remembers watching that. What is it like for you to see this video that came out today?
I felt sick, and I felt violently angry, and I felt like I'm sure a lot of men and women feel looking at that video, that it's so disturbing that the video doesn't lie.
I mean, you know, when I watched it, what stood out to me initially after Elizabeth Wagmeister got it was she's barefoot in the beginning. And it's like she was so quickly running out of the room to get to the elevator that she didn't even put her shoes on yet.
I mean, that's terror. That's what you would do if there was a fire, right? You would just run out, grab what you could. So I can only imagine looking at that, the fear that she felt she had to get out of that room in bare feet in order to be safe or protect herself.
I mean, you worked closely with him.
I did. I was his assistant between 2008.
That is Diddy's assistant, who is now pulling back the lid on what being assistant to Diddy was like.
What did you observe about them at this time?
I observed nothing that would lead me to believe, or there was no scuttlebutt about it. I never saw him speak harshly to her or be abusive toward her or anything like that. I rode in the limos with them. I went to parties with them. I guess what I would say is, even though I never saw anything that could corroborate what's in that lawsuit and what we just saw, there was not one cell in my body that was surprised.
Why not?
You know, it's gonna sound a little bit weird because I don't have any facts, right? And nobody's gonna call me to testify. But I would say that it's woman's intuition. I would say that I was around him a lot and I got a feeling for who he was. I didn't see anything that could get him in trouble. But I think that the power dynamic in a situation like that, especially her at the beginning of her career, so young and beautiful and talented, and she hooked herself or became involved with somebody who had so much power. And I felt that working for him. I'm sure the whole team felt that. And I mean, that's right, he's a mogul, so of course he's the big boss. But I think that you could imagine, certainly in my interactions with him, you could imagine how that would dissipate and sort of seep into every aspect of his life, and especially his relationships.
Yeah, because I mean, she was 19, I believe, and he was 37 when they first began dating.
Right, so imagine how that would be, and then he's rich, and not only is he rich, but he controls your career. And all you want in your career, right, is she's an artist. She wants to make music. She really was an artist, is an artist. And now all of a sudden, she's with somebody who could make that happen for her, and it doesn't happen.
So it wasn't anything specific, you got a strange, uncomfortable.
Her jitteriness when answering questions is leading many to speculate if she was in on what Diddy was doing to Cassie.
Treated people, again, nobody was mistreated that I saw. I didn't feel mistreated, but it was very clear to me. Again, this is intuition, right? This is what we pick up as women and humans who are smart and have been around. He just didn't see your humanity when he looked at you. It felt very obvious to me that everyone was just sort of there to be used, that he can get the most out of you. You know, for example, I went to go work for him. I'm a pretty senior person. It was sort of an odd thing. I have a fancy master's degree, whatever, who cares? But it was, you know, he wanted to get me for as cheaply as he could. And most people would just dive in and take it, right? Because you think that you're gonna get something by working for him.
And I wonder how that video, which, you know, he denied a lot these allegations, and those allegations were in the lawsuit. I mean, he's facing 5 other civil lawsuits that are accusing him of a range of sexual misconduct and illegal activity. Everyone remembers the raid at his homes in Miami and New York, where it was the part of the Department of Homeland Security that deals with human trafficking. And I should note, he hasn't been charged with anything.
Of course.
They've maintained that he hasn't done anything wrong. But, you know, it must be really strange to see what we see now in black and white on that video, and to be someone who had worked for him.
Well, there you go. That's how you know that your intuition is right? I didn't see that proof. Obviously, I saw it with the rest of America today. But when I saw it, I knew that that was something that he could be capable of. And he's a genius, he's brilliant, he's one of the best minds I've ever been around. But I think when the power differential is so awful, and you just can get away with anything that you want.
All of this is coming to light after CNN acquired footage of Diddy beating up Cassie. And since then, Diddy has even come out and apologized. Many notable celebs have come out and reacted to his apology since.
That's because 20 years ago, man, when I was in high school, well, not in high school, but I was like 20-something years ago, man, I did some stuff that wasn't right. And I actually stole $100 from one of my friends, and I just want to apologize for that right now, since we all going through late apologies. I'm really sorry. I was just...
Cut it out, Puff. Cut it out. So you were disgusted back then, you're disgusted now. So let me ask you a question then. Was that the last time that you did that to her? Was that the last time you did that to any woman? If you're so disgusted and you went and you got all this help and you feel whatever, and if that's the case, why did you say enough is enough and say that she was lying? Say that, all the things in her lawsuit are not true. That incident was in her lawsuit. I remember that incident because I was around. Remember? I remember her telling me about how you spent $50,000 to get rid of that video. Watching that video the other day was crazy because I thought no one was ever going to see it because of you. And now you're sorry? Really? Cry me a river, bro. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. And I'm glad you don't want forgiveness because ain't nobody giving it to you over here. You know what you did. You're fine with your behavior. That's the bottom line. That is you. That person on that video is part of you. And that part of you needs to atone, needs to take whatever is coming to you because you have already sown these seeds. Take your punishment like a
On November 16th, 2023, R&B singer Cassie, who is Sean Diddy Combs' ex-girlfriend, filed a lawsuit accusing Combs of sexual assault. This was the first of 5 lawsuits that emerged against Combs, with 2 of these alleging rape filed in New York County Court, and the other 3, which included accusations of human trafficking and sexual assault, filed in the federal court of the Southern District of New York. Cassie, legally known as Cassandra Ventura, was once signed to Combs' label Bad Boy Records. In her detailed lawsuit, she described freak-off parties that Combs allegedly hosted. She claimed that he would have her and his employees fly in male sex workers, whom he would then force her to have sex with. Cassie also alleged that Combs provided her with a mix of drugs, including ecstasy, cocaine, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol, which often left her needing IV fluids to recover the next day. Additionally, Cassie accused Combs of physically abusing her throughout their 11-year relationship, exerting complete control over her life. One notable incident from 2012 during Paris Fashion Week involved Combs allegedly threatening to blow up Kid Cudi's car due to a brief relationship between Cassie and Cudi. According to the lawsuit, Cudi's car did indeed explode in his driveway around that time, which Cudi's spokeswoman confirmed to the New York Times. In response to Cassie's allegations, Combs' attorney labeled her actions as blackmail, referring to a previous demand of $30 million under the threat of releasing a damaging book about their relationship. Despite Combs' denial of the claims, the lawsuit was settled the day after it was filed for an undisclosed amount. Combs' lawyer emphasized that the settlement did not undermine his denial of the accusations. In the months following Cassie's lawsuit, 4 more suits were filed. One of these was from a Jane Doe who alleged that in 2003, when she was 17, Combs and others coerced her to fly from Detroit to New York City. There, she claimed, Combs and 2 others intoxicated her to the point where she could not consent to sex and then raped her. Another lawsuit came from Rodney Jones, a music producer who worked on Combs' recent project, The Love Album. Jones alleged that Combs forced him to solicit sex workers and perform sex acts at sex parties in 2022 and 2023, threatening physical violence if he refused. Jones also accused Combs of having underage girls at these parties. Several of the lawsuits claimed that Combs filmed these sexual encounters, using the videos to control the people involved. Sean "Diddy" Combs strongly denies all the charges against him. His attorney released a statement saying he views these lawsuits as a money grab. Because of Mr. Combs' fame and success, he is an easy target for accusers who attempt to smear him. Combs himself took to Instagram, writing, "Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth." On March 25th, the Department of Homeland Security raided Combs' homes in Los Angeles and Miami as part of an ongoing investigation. Homeland Security investigations did not provide further details. Combs' attorney criticized the raids, calling them a gross overuse of military-level force and describing the situation as a witch hunt based on meritless accusations made in civil lawsuits. Both Christian Combs and his father have denied any wrongdoing. In April, their attorney addressed the most recent lawsuit, labeling it as the latest in a series of lewd and meritless claims from a lawyer whose tactics were previously criticized by a federal judge in another case. Despite his falling public image, Combs remained defiant. Tabloids captured him cycling around Miami Beach, smiling brightly and flashing a peace sign. On April 5th, as media attention began to wane, he posted the nearly 8-minute music video for his 1997 song Victory on Instagram, spending most of the video running from police. He captioned it, "Bad Boy for Life." Combs' life has been shaped by significant challenges from an early age. Born in Harlem in 1969, to Janice Combs and Melvin Earl Combs, who worked for New York drug kingpin Frank Lucas, Sean lost his father in a drug deal gone bad when he was just a toddler. His mother worked 3 jobs to support Sean and his sister Keisha, with their grandmother helping to raise them. These early experiences instilled a hustle-hard mentality in Combs. In a 2006 interview with Oprah Winfrey, he recalled an incident from his childhood. When he was 9, his grandmother sent him to the store and someone stole his money. His mother refused to let him back in the house, insisting he retrieve the money. She taught him that showing weakness invites exploitation and emphasized the importance of defending oneself. Combs often reflects on his difficult upbringing. He once shared on Instagram, "One day when I was growing up, I woke up and there were 15 roaches on my face," highlighting the stark realities he faced and overcame. His artistic persona also inclined toward darker themes. He chose the name Puffy because, as he told Jet in 1998, "Whenever I got mad as a kid, I used to always huff and puff. I had a temper. That's why my friends started calling me Puffy." Combs' mother sees his life from a somewhat different perspective. In 2002, she told The New Yorker about Combs' desire of having a paper route. "We had a Cadillac car and a house, and he liked life like that," Janice Combs recalled. When Combs was 12, Janice moved the family to Mount Vernon, New York, where he attended Mount St. Michael Academy, an all-boys Catholic school in the Bronx. He spent a few semesters at Howard University before asking record executive Andre Harrell for an internship at Uptown Records in New York. In 1989, Combs made his music video debut by dancing behind R&B artist Stacey Lattisaw in the video for her track, "What You Need." At the time, Combs was 19 years old and worked in Motown Records' mailroom in New York. Lattisaw, who was already on her 10th studio album, struggled to learn the choreography. A Stick Slim Combs offered to assist. "He danced so well that the producer was like, 'You know what? How about you come along?'" recalls Lattisaw. During a break from the 12-hour session, Lattisaw and Combs spoke on a nearby couch. He told her that the mailroom was only the beginning. He seemed very focused. He had a lot of plans, she says. A year later, he joined Uptown Records as a talent director. 3 years after joining Uptown Records, Combs launched his own record label, Bad Boy. It is difficult to overestimate Combs' influence on the music industry. A new sort of musical mashup known as blend tapes began surfacing in Harlem on cassettes and subsequently CDs, with DJs layering R&B vocals over stronger rap beats. The sound was revolutionary, and the sound helped change the music industry itself, the way that hip-hop and R&B were no longer two separate worlds, Toure explains. The cultural critic earlier told MSNBC's Joy Reid that a male cousin had an internship with Combs, which ended when the tycoon allegedly sexually assaulted him. Toure consented to speak with the Post exclusively about Combs' cultural position. It was the sound on which he built his business. There was a period in the 90s, at least in the Northeast, where he is really the dominant sonic figure, Toure explains. He was constant. Success arrived immediately. Craig Mack's Flava in Ya Ear reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100, received a Grammy nomination, and went platinum. The same year, Bad Boy Records released the Notorious Big's Ready to Die, an album that has gone platinum 6 times and is considered one of the genre's defining masterpieces. Over the next 30 years, the label signed Faith Evans, Mace, Carl Thomas, French Montana, Machine Gun Kelly, and Janelle Monáe. At one point, the company's worth exceeded $100 million. Meanwhile, Combs rapped as Puff Daddy and achieved fame with the Billboard-topping album No Way Out in 1997, which went 7 times platinum. I'll Be Missing You, an homage to the late Notorious Big, topped the charts for 11 weeks, and the accompanying music video included the iconic picture of Combs dancing alone in a black suit. But his ambitions extended far beyond music. Toure says, he seemed to be always about trying to make money. In 1998, he introduced Sean John, a fashion and fragrance label. In 2007, he became one of the first celebrities to endorse a liquor brand, collaborating with Ciroc Vodka. He established 2 restaurants and invested in a television network and a sports drinks business. In 2012, Fortune placed him 12th among the top 40 entrepreneurs under 40. According to reports, Combs was a billionaire by 2022, but a storm constantly followed him. His first public brush with scandal occurred in December 1991, when he assisted in organizing a star-studded event for AIDS education at New York's City College. A reported 5,000 people showed up, much more than expected. An anxious mob waited for hours to reach the gymnasium's solitary entrance door. A stampede resulted in 9 deaths and dozens of injuries. It resulted in at least 10 civil litigation and 8 personal injury claims, some of which included Combs as a defendant. According to the BBC, Combs testified as a witness in a 1998 lawsuit against the college and ultimately paid at least $750,000 in legal settlements claimed by victims and their relatives. As hip-hop rose to the forefront of American mainstream culture in the mid-1990s, a civil war erupted between factions on either coast. If Bad Boy Records established the East Coast's sound, Death Row Records, co-founded by Marion Suge Knight, was its Californian cultural counterpart. Tupac Shakur, Death Row's biggest star, was shot 5 times in the head, groin, and hand while in the lobby of Quad Studios in Times Square on November 30th, 1994. Tupac and the Notorious Big, aka Biggie, had a tight relationship, but the injured rapper felt Biggie and Combs were involved in the shooting. They were both inside the building that night. The shooters stole Tupac's diamond ring and gold chains, but not his diamond-encrusted Rolex. There were no other attacks at Quad Studios. No one from Bad Boy Records was ever linked to the shooting, and both Biggie and Combs officially denied any involvement. Tupac released several songs that directly mocked Biggie and Bad Boy Records. Witnesses reported seeing Combs' then bodyguard argue with Jai Hassan Jamal Robles, a member of Death Row's entourage, inside an Atlanta club in September 1995, just before Robles was shot and killed. Combs' bodyguard died in a shooting in Atlanta 8 years later. Tupac Shakur was slain in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas in September of 1996. 6 months later, Biggie was killed in Los Angeles in a drive-by shooting. Rumors that Combs was complicit in Tupac's death plagued him for years. Combs described the claims as pure fiction and completely ridiculous. In half a year, 2 of hip-hop's brightest stars died. For Combs, the storm continued. In 1999, he appeared in a music video for Nas's song Hate Me Now as a crucified Jesus wearing a crown of thorns. Combs apparently had second thoughts and asked Interscope Records executive Steve Stout to remove the segment. He did not. Later that day, Combs allegedly went to Stout's New York office and, as Stout told the Los Angeles Times, punched me in the face. Then he grabbed the phone and bashed me in the head. Combs was arrested and charged with felony assault. He later pled guilty to a reduced charge of harassment and received a 1-day anger management sentence. He apparently paid Stout a large out-of-court settlement. By early December, Combs was at the Met Gala, dressed in his typical white and holding his girlfriend Jennifer Lopez's arm, speaking with Henry Kissinger. Later that month, Combs, Lopez, and Shine, one of his rising rappers, were at a nightclub when a customer called Matthew Scar Allen allegedly shoved Combs. Money was then allegedly thrown at Combs' face. A gunfight broke out. Combs and Lopez were arrested while fleeing the club in a Lincoln Navigator. Police discovered a pistol under the front passenger seat. Combs was ultimately found not guilty on 4 charges of unlawful gun possession and 1 count of bribery in connection with the incident, while Shine was sentenced to nearly 9 years in prison for assault and gun possession. Shine publicly claimed Combs betrayed him to save himself. "I was found innocent of all charges because I am innocent. It is absolutely ridiculous for anyone to blame me for anyone else's actions," Combs said in response. In 2001, Combs changed his name from Puff Daddy to P. Diddy to put the issue behind him. He then claimed it was a joke but kept the name. The change, however, did not dampen the waves of controversy. Former Bad Boy Entertainment president Kirk Burroughs sued him in 2003, alleging that Combs intimidated him with a baseball bat to get him to give up his company interests. An appeals court later dismissed the case, ruling that the statute of limitations had lapsed. He was sued in 2007 for reportedly hitting real estate agent Gerard Rechnitzer and pushing his girlfriend. The case was eventually settled. In 2015, he was charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, following a confrontation with his son's UCLA football coach. During the incident, he allegedly swung a kettlebell at coaches. The charges were eventually withdrawn. His former chef, Cindy Rueda, accused him of sexual harassment and retaliation in a 2017 lawsuit. The matter was later resolved. Such setbacks never deterred Combs' ambition. He methodically cultivated the image of an outgoing, self-made American baron. In March 1998, Combs paid approximately $2.5 million for a 4-bedroom mansion on the prestigious Hedges Banks Drive in East Hampton, Long Island's celebrity hotspot. Months later, Combs hosted the first of his renowned white parties. Having an entire party all dressed in white was a stunning sight, Martha Stewart told The Hollywood Reporter in 2018. Donna Karan, Leonardo DiCaprio, Howard Stern, Moby, Ashton Kutcher, Al Sharpton, Salman Rushdie, Paris Hilton, and Heavy D all turned up in clean linen button-downs and spaghetti-strap skirts. R. Curry Hay, a society columnist for Hamptons magazine at the time, believes the parties were ultimately a ploy for Diddy to promote himself. When he and J-Lo came out of the balcony of his bedroom, he was swigging Cristal from the bottle, and they had their arms wrapped around each other, he recounts. It was like rap royalty. At one point, Combs employed a valet named Farnsworth Bentley, whose legal name is Derek Watkins, to carry his umbrella on the beaches of Saint-Tropez. Combs understood that image reigned supreme. Combs founded Sean John the same year he established the White Party. It shared the same ethos as earlier parties, to integrate hip-hop into high society. The brand debuted in New York in 1999 with a lavish gala at Bloomingdale's main shop on Lexington Avenue. He wanted to create fashion and change the face of the fashion business. He did, wrote the Post's Robin Givhan in 2016. Macy's has sold the label since 2010, and at its peak, it sold upwards of $500 million a year. In 2004, Combs became the first black designer to receive the Council of Fashion Designers of America's Menswear Designer of the Year award. During New York Fashion Week, Sean John hosted an A-list party to mark the launch of its first and only Fifth Avenue flagship store. It closed in 2010. At its peak in 2016, Combs sold a controlling ownership in the clothing line for an undisclosed sum, only to repurchase the insolvent label in 2021 for $7.5 million. Macy's began discontinuing the brand last year, according to Bloomberg. Meanwhile, his relationship with Diageo, the firm that owns Ciroc, deteriorated after the two parties purchased the tequila brand De Leon in 2013 and failed to yield the promised profit. Combs filed a lawsuit against the corporation in 2023, alleging racial discrimination. The parties agreed to settle by January 2024. Combs developed a reputation as a tough businessman over time. Mace, who rose to prominence as Combs' wingman and bad boy rapper in his own right, has been one of the most outspoken critics of Combs' practice of holding publication rights, which was not unusual in the 1990s. In a 2020 Instagram post, Mace accused Combs of rejecting a $2 million deal to purchase back his publishing rights, which he said he sold for $20,000 when he was 19 years old. When I see the hurt and pain of other people on Bad Boy, that motivates me to say something, Mace stated in an Instagram live broadcast in 2022 detailing his feud with Combs. Combs also earned a reputation as a hard-working employer who pushed his musicians to extremes, which some admired and others despised. Diddy was one of my heroes, recalls singer-songwriter Kalena Harper, who co-founded the R&B duo Diddy Dirty Money with Combs and Dawn Richard in 2009. Being a bad boy artist required hard effort in an almost boot camp-like environment. Harper, who grew up as a military brat, insisted she was prepared. I didn't feel like he was trying to break me down. I felt like he was trying to fast-forward me, says Harper. What do you think is the truth about Diddy? Let us know in the comments.
Susie Siegel was his former assistant during the time that he began dating Cassie Ventura, the singer. And I should note, you became his assistant as a part of the reality show to work for him.
I did.
Everyone remembers watching that. What is it like for you to see this video that came out today?
I felt sick, and I felt violently angry, and I felt like I'm sure a lot of men and women feel looking at that video, that it's so disturbing that the video doesn't lie.
I mean, when I watched it, what stood out to me initially after Elizabeth Wagmeister got it was she's barefoot in the beginning. And it's like she was so quickly running out of the room to get to the elevator that she didn't even put her shoes on yet.
I mean, that's terror. That's what you would do if there was a fire, right? You would just run out, grab what you could. So I can only imagine looking at that, the fear that she felt she had to get out of that room in bare feet in order to be safe or protect herself.
I mean, you worked closely with him.
I did. I was his assistant between 2008.
What did you observe about them at this time?
I observed nothing that would lead me to believe, or there was no scuttlebutt about it. I never saw him speak harshly to her or be abusive toward her or anything like that. I rode in the limos with them. I went to parties with them. I guess what I would say is, even though I never saw anything that could corroborate what's in that lawsuit and what we just saw, there was not one cell in my body that was surprised.
Why not?
It's gonna sound a little bit weird because I don't have any facts, right? And nobody's gonna call me to testify. But I would say that it's woman's intuition. I would say that I was around him a lot and I got a feeling for who he was. I didn't see anything that could get him in trouble. But I think that the power dynamic in a situation like that, especially her at the beginning of her career, so young and beautiful and talented, and she hooked herself or became involved with somebody who had so much power. And I felt that working for him. I'm sure the whole team felt that. And I mean, that's right, he's a mogul, so of course he's the big boss. But I think that you could imagine, certainly in my interactions with him, you could imagine how that would dissipate and sort of seep into every aspect of his life, and especially his relationships.
Yeah, because I mean, she was 19, I believe, and he was 37 when they first began dating.
Right. So imagine how that would be, and then he's rich, and not only is he rich, but he controls your career. And all you want in your career, right, is she's an artist. She wants to make music. She really was an artist, is an artist. And now all of a sudden, she's with somebody who could make that happen for her, and it doesn't happen.
So you don't, it wasn't anything specific, you got a strange